This time on the podcast, for the first time ever, we're talking about a movie that's still in theaters? Welcome back to the Kevin Talks Movies podcast, episode 10. Thanks for sticking around, or if you're just joining us for the first time, thanks for tuning in. Sorry I had to cancel the Halloween marathon. It didn't go as I planned, but such is life. But we've moved on, and now I just saw Bohemian Rhapsody in theaters a couple of days ago. And first off, before I start talking about it, if you have not seen this movie, it is still in theaters. Go see it in theaters because it was really good. And I'm about to hype it up beyond belief, and I don't want your expectations to be way too high. And also, it's not going to be as good at home, at least if you don't have like a killer sound system, because this movie, trust me, it's one of those that's way better in theaters, so go see it if you haven't seen it. I would encourage tuning out now because I'm about to super hype it up. So I had been waiting for this movie to come out for a super long time. Okay, I saw the trailer for it months and months ago. And I was already a fan of Rami Malek going into it. He played Freddie Mercury in this movie. I was a fan of his from the video game Until Dawn. I also hear that he's on Mr. Robot, a TV show, which I hear is super good. I need to watch that. And anyways, the point is, I've been super hyped for this movie for a long time. So with that, I had super high expectations. And I gotta say, it did not let me down. I was so pleasantly surprised because normally when I hype myself up for a movie, normally the movie doesn't live up to what I have built for it in my mind. But this movie lived up to it. Additionally, it freaking, I'd say it was actually probably better than my expectations. I'm not gonna lie. It was a little better than I expected, and I expected a lot out of it. It was unfair how much pressure I put on this movie, and it still beat what I had set up for it. So I was really impressed. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. It was great. They did a great job, and Rami Malek did a fantastic job. I'm calling it right now. I'm calling it. This movie is going to get nominated for a bunch of Oscars. Nominated. It is not going to win a bunch of Oscars. In fact, I don't think it's going to win any Oscars, but it will be nominated in just about every category. And, well, if it does win an Oscar, I think it'll win for something regarding sound, maybe. But I think it's going to be a super underappreciated movie at the Oscars. But the Oscars don't always vote for who's the better movie anyway. The Oscars vote for who puts in the most money to the Oscars, pretty much. Or at least to their voters. They're very easily persuaded, but I would be persuaded too if I was getting millions of dollars to vote for a movie. But, yeah, this movie was great. Bohemian Rhapsody, man, it was so good because not only did Remy do a great job convincing me that it was Freddie Mercury, but also I felt like I was there with them. Like they did a really good job of kind of sucking me into the story because I felt like I was a part of the band with them. Like, I felt like I was just, like, you know, sitting them, watching themselves grow. And what I did really like about this movie that I didn't expect was I gained a lot of respect for Freddie Mercury. Not in his later career, but we'll discard that little piece of information. But, because he was kind of going off the deep... Anyway, at the very beginning of his quote-unquote career, when, you know, they were doing clubs and whatnot, he wasn't even part of the band. He had never met the band. He just meets them their singer just quit. He just meets them, and he is a cocky son of a bitch. He like sings like 2 lines for them, and yeah, they're impressed because he's a good singer, but he just walks away all confidently. After 2 seconds ago, they didn't want any part of him. Now he's walking away all confidently, being all like, oh yeah, I'll accept your offer when I get it. Or no, I'll consider your offer. And he was just so cocky about it. I loved it. And then another huge point of respect, that, you know, he chose to sell the band's van so that they could make a record. That is huge. That is huge. I would never, ever give up my car to sell a record. Huge amount of respect. Not to sell a record, to make a record. Wow. Huge. This movie was so freaking good. I'm giving it a solid 8.5 out of 10. Only because I feel like 8 is too low, but I feel like also 9 is maybe too high, so I'm giving it 8.5. I'm snubbing it like they're going to get snubbed at the Oscars, except they're getting snubbed at the Kevins. The Kevin, that was a bad joke. Anyways, do I recommend this movie? Yes. Do I recommend this movie in theaters? Absolutely. Will I buy this movie? Absolutely. It was so inspiring. As a musician, this movie was so inspiring. And also, another thing about the movie was, not only did I feel like I was, like, right there with them, but, like, emotionally, I felt like I was right there with them the whole time. And also, when they were on stage, I felt like I was on stage with them. It was crazy. Maybe I'm crazy, but I thought they did a really good job with that. What was I going to say before that? I was going to say that, oh yeah, as a musician, this movie is really inspiring. I would probably give it the second most inspiring music movie that I've seen. Behind Whiplash. Whiplash was super inspiring, but this movie was a close second in terms of how much will it inspire you to go make music. And it was great. It was great. You know, it was great. How good was it? It was great. Okay. I had more to say about this movie, but now I'm drawing a blank, of course. So, I think it's time for some movie facts.
Fact me, fact you.
Oh yeah, I just remembered what I was going to say before I freaking decided to go on to movie facts because I panicked. I was going to say that, oh yeah, when I was watching the trailers to this movie, a trailer for Rocket Man came up, which, you guessed it, is just like Bohemian Rhapsody, except Elton John style. And that movie is not going to be as much of a blockbuster as this movie is. Not that this movie's a blockbuster, I don't know that yet. We haven't gotten to the movie facts. But, see, it's like they saw that they were making this movie, and they were like, oh my gosh, what a good idea. Let's do that. But we can't do that with Queen because they're already doing that. So let's do that with, who else was big in the 80s? Elton John? Yeah, so let's go with Elton John. And the thing is, all due respect to Sir Elton John, but you guys are going to hate me, but Queen is legendary. People of all generations love Queen. All generations love Queen. You know who loves Elton John? People that were around in the 80s to see Elton John. No kids are going out to go see an Elton John movie, but you know what they are going to go see? Queen, because Queen is timeless. I mean, I like Elton John, but I mean, you know. Rocket Man is no Bohemian Rhapsody. Let me put it that way. Anyway, that movie is just like a direct copycat of this movie, except with Elton John, and frankly, I just don't care as much. And, you know, they're really limiting their audience because what they didn't realize is that everybody loves Queen, only some people love Elton John. I don't even love Elton John. I like Elton John. And, anyways, let's get on to the movie facts.
Fact me, fact you.
Thank you again, Arnold. How nice is it of Arnold Schwarzenegger to always be here just standing by? I don't even record a podcast all the time, and he's just here all the time, just waiting for me to say that we're ready for some movie facts, and he's just standing by. Just wait. He's just such a nice guy. So unnecessary of him. Anyways, so Bohemian Rhapsody, I, as you remember, gave it an 8.5 out of 10. IMDb is giving it 8.4 out of 10. Oh my gosh, so close. I was so close to IMDb's score. Rotten Tomatoes, 60%. Metacritic, 49%. Ooh. Ay. They're getting kind of, they're being harsh. I loved it. Perfect casting as Remy Malek as Freddie Mercury, by the way. Perfect casting. That's what made me want to see this movie months and months ago when I was only seeing trailers. But, so 98% of Google users like this movie, and I like Google users because they are smart. They know what's going on. And so I was looking for the box office. Oh, well, I guess they don't know the box office yet because they're not done at the box office. Oh, shoot. I didn't think about that. But what was their budget? I'm sure I could figure out their budget. Their budget of this movie was what a great podcast, just me doing that. Can you imagine if I just did that for 40 minutes? Actually, that's even more relaxing. Anyway, the budget of the movie was $52 million. They grossed $65.6 million in the U.S. and Canada and $110.6 million in other territories, for a total worldwide gross of $176 million. And they're not done yet, but they made their money back and more. It was a good decision on their part, and man, it was a good movie. It was solid. It was really solid. What can I say? I mean, it was great. Okay, well, besides me saying the same thing over and over again, let me maybe give you some new information. Mike Myers was in this movie? As Ray Foster. Who is Ray Foster? Oh, he was that guy? What? Oh my gosh. The producer that turned down Queen when they were making Bohemian Rhapsody, the song, because he was all like, you're going to release You're My Best Friend, and that's that. And Queen was all like, no, it's Bohemian Rhapsody or we walk. I have a horrible impression of both of them. But anyways, apparently that producer was Mike Myers. Yes. The Cat in the Hat Mike Myers. Yes. Shrek. Yes. Wayne's World Mike Myers. So, that was apparently Mike Myers. Wow. Great job to the costuming. Or whatever you would call that, because I did not recognize him at all. Wow, I did not even know he was in that movie. Whew. Okay. So. Oh yeah, I was really bummed because I checked out the soundtrack because at the beginning of the movie, you might remember when they were playing that club and Freddie, like Freddie's first appearance with them. And, you know, the microphone stand like came apart and he just said, oh, well, screw it. I'm going to use it anyway. And Loved it, by the way. Great job selling me with that, Remy, because it looked like he was so in the Anyway, great acting. But the point is, I really loved the song they were playing. It was like really kick-ass. And I went to the soundtrack hoping to find it, but I couldn't. It wasn't on the soundtrack. So that was really disappointing. I want that song, and if anyone has any information, please tell me what the hell that song was. Because I know it was their first band name, Smile. Smile is on the soundtrack, yes. But not the song that I'm thinking of. They only have one song from Smile on the podcast. On the soundtrack. And I'm the podcaster, kind of. And anyway. It was a rockin' song. Couldn't find it. I was disappointed. Anyways. So yeah. Just a heads up. This podcast is not going to be a weekly podcast anymore. It's just going to be basically whenever I feel motivated to do the podcast, because I frankly have had very little motivation to do it, and I want to keep doing it, and I don't want to get burnt out from it. So I feel like this is going to help, and that's why I had to cancel the movie marathon. Sorry, I'll get back to those horror movies at some point. I promise. But my fingers may be crossed. If you any comments, questions, suggestions, concerns, feel free to email me at kevintalksmoviespodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram if you want to see my face every time we post a new episode. Instagram is at kevintalksmovies. And for a full catalog of the show, go to youtube.com and find Kevin Talks Movies on there, because not every episode is available on iTunes, but they are all on YouTube. Not that anybody watches it on YouTube. I think the highest viewed one is three views on YouTube. Not that I have that many listeners to the podcast, but I have about like 20. So says my statistics or whatever. But anyway, the point is, YouTube isn't a very popular audience for my podcast, but it is there if you want to check it out. We have back to episode 1 where I did Terminator 2. God, I love Terminator. I should do all the Terminators. Except for Salvation. I hated Salvation. I also hated 3. But love Terminator 1, 2, and Genesis. I'm getting sidetracked. I think I pretty much signed off already. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. I will see you next time. See ya! Okay, let me try to stop recording again. See ya!